the trestle.
Ooh, Sheep Man.
Yeah. Wait a minute. Who is the Sheep Man?
You've never heard of the public monster?
Man, where you been all your life? Band practice? No, what is it?
It's this half-man, half-sheep creature that lives out near the train trestle.
Yeah, and at night it comes out and it lures people out on the tracks. Where did it come from? Do you really want to know? Yeah? Well, there was this horny old farmer who had a torrid affair with a ewe.
Legend has it that the area surrounding the train trestles on Poplick Road in Louisville, Kentucky, is home to a monster who haunts all those who dare to walk near the train tracks. There are multiple versions of the legend, but all have the monster to be described as half goat and half man. This legend dates back to the first half of the 20th century. One story describes an attraction from a traveling circus being set free after a train derails, and he exacts revenge on those who made his life miserable. More stories explain the monster to be a product of bestiality between a farmer and his livestock, and another version has the farmer exchange his soul with the devil for magical powers. Because the legend of the Poplick monster is passed down orally, people can recall who they heard it from and what version of the story they heard, no matter how long it's been.
Around 1973.
All right.
And my wife lived out on Route Road, and that's out in Fisherville. And when I would go pick her up for a date, you know, the first thing I would go past would be the trestle. And I looked up on the left-hand side, and I'd see this big trestle, and I'd always ask her, like, what is that? And she would explain, it's the trestle where the train goes by, and blah, 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 there's a Poplick monster, blah, 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 all this. And so I got to asking her a little bit more about it, and it's quite a story. She said that it was a half goat, half man, okay, and it had been going on for generations, a couple of generations. And I think what I remember the thing was the Poplick monster would stand underneath the tracks and scare the people that tried to run across the tracks.
I was 15 in my photography class in high school, and my friends and I were looking up stories about urban legends in Louisville or in Kentucky in general, and there was one about a goat man in Poplick that my friend Clayton found online. Okay, from what I've heard, the way the story goes is that there was this traveling circus going around the United States, basically. And the ringmaster, or whatever you'd call it, of the circus found a centaur-type half-man, half-goat creature. And he thought, oh, this is going to be perfect for my circus. Nobody's got this thing. We're going to scare the crap out of some people. So he got the goat man, and he's like, you know, toting him around all over the place. They end up in Kentucky, and there is a train accident on the trestle. I guess they were traveling by train. This is back in the day. So the train crashes, and everyone in the circus dies, and there's all this, like, big explosion. It's all terrifying or whatever. And the goat man lived because he, I don't know if he made it happen. I'm not sure exactly what it is. But basically, the train crashed, and the goat man was the lone survivor. And he made a vow that anyone who ever came up on that train trestle was going to be hypnotized into walking into the middle of the train trestle and being hit by a train.
Well, I grew up in the J-Town area, so I've heard about the Poplick monster my whole life. Different stories about it being the goat man, about it being a ghost, just different stories my whole life. My run-in with the Poplick monster started when I was about 22, 23 years old. One evening, two friends of mine and I were sitting around the table just talking about ghosts and monsters and things like that and whether or not we believed in them. And we decided we were going to go out to the Poplick trestle. This was probably about 6 o'clock in the evening, so it was just about the time dusk was setting in. So we got in my car and we drove out there. Decided we were going to drive down Poplick a little bit farther because we didn't seem to see anything at the trestle. So we go down the road, probably about, I would say 3 or 4 miles. We went down the road looking left and right and, you know, just seeing what we could see. Didn't see much of anything. It was dark by this time and the wind was blowing a little bit, so it was kind of creepy. We turned around to go back the way we came. We got, I would say, within eyesight of the trestle again, and we were coming around the corner, And about that time, Mike said, "What is that?" And I look up ahead, and there's something moving in the middle of the road. So I slammed on the brakes, didn't know what to do. We kind of just sat there for a second. You could see something moving. There was like a dark shape and a light shape. It was kind of blocked by the tree, so we really couldn't understand what it was. By this time, I was getting nervous, and Mike was getting nervous, and Bo was on the floorboard of the car by this time. We decided we're going to just wait it out because I couldn't really back up where I was, and I surely couldn't go forward because whatever it was right in front of us. And the next thing I know, stepping out from behind the tree that was blocking it, you could see this shape just moving. And you could see these two glowing eyes. We really didn't know what to do. We just kind of sat there. And the next thing we know, it stepped out a little bit farther, and it turned, and it looked at us. And all of a sudden, you hear, "Moo." It was the biggest black and white cow I've ever seen in my entire life, and it's standing right across Public Road. Well, once we figured out what it was, of course, we were laughing hysterically and, just thought that this was the funniest thing in the world. It moved on out of the road. We drove home. Of course, after we got back home, though, we got to thinking, we'd also heard that the Poplick monster could be a shape changer. Could this possibly have been the Poplick monster? I don't know. I don't think I ever want to see it again, though. Whether it was a cow or the monster, I really don't ever want to see that again. So that's kind of my story about the Poplick monster. Funny as it was, could be true. Was it really him? I guess I'll never know.
I heard about the monster when I was in high school. My first memory of it is when I was in the marching band when I was in high school, and I just remember people talking about it, and people were talking about going after the trestle, like after the game, after the football game that we were playing in. The stories that I heard were all unique about what they saw or what they thought was there, what was the legend, where did he come from. I mean, everybody had their own version. So, I couldn't even tell you what it is because I've heard, so many that I don't know really what the one story is. I don't think there is one really. I mean, I think it's just sort of a self-perpetuating myth that just evolves constantly.
Kids are going to do what kids do, and if you do something, you're going to tell your friends, hey, it's pretty nice, it's pretty neat up there, and there's a legend, and kids are going to be bored, or they're just going to say, hey, I want to see this, and they might not even live near J-Town, and they might come out there just to see this trestle and just walk across it.
I told some of my friends about it, that we went out there just to be like, oh, I went out there. I wasn't scared of any goat man. I went out on the trestle. I didn't get hit. I didn't get hypnotized. So it was kind of like bragging rights. I mean, for those who have an adventurous side like I do, I'd tell them to go out there just to see if they see anything.
Everybody had their own story. I mean, just throw in a mix of danger and alcohol and teenage hormones and things happen.
Bye.